our special guests, Sue and Stephen, tonight. The Faculty of Humanities, Arts and Social Sciences founded the Creative Dialogue series to bring together leading figures from the arts, journalism and creative industries to share their career highlights and some insights into the creative sectors that are such a vital and valuable part of the British economy and our culture, both here and abroad. The Creative Dialogue series has a really proud history. We've had guest speakers, the likes of Stephen Fry, Mira Sayal, the investigative journalist Nick Davies, and the producer Marigo Keehan. And the Dialogue series is just one strand of the investment that the university is making in creative industries here at Exeter. The dialogues provide an opportunity for colleagues, students, and the wider Exeter community to discover more about leading practitioners in arts and the creative industries, how they approach their work, their creative practice, and there will be opportunities for questions and answers at the end. But more importantly, it gives us an opportunity to celebrate the contribution that our guests have made to enriching the cultural life of the nation and, I'm going to say it, the world. So we are delighted to welcome Sue Vertue and Stephen Moffat here tonight. Sue Vertue is board member and executive producer of Hearts and Films, who has had a glittering award-winning career, making the weather, creating and producing an astonishing array of projects on British and international screens, from Sherlock to Douglas's Cancel. And Stephen Moffat, a writer and executive producer, has written and produced many of our most formative experiences on television, film, stage, from Press Gang, particularly formative moment for me, to Doctor Who. And they will be in conversation tonight with our very own Professor Linda Williams, Professor of Film, and Mark Kermode, film critic, presenter, and an honorary professor here at the university. So thank you to Sue and Stephen for being here tonight, and to Linda and Mark for your time and facilitating what I know will be a really enlightening conversation. Thank you also to Will Higby for kickstarting the Creative Dialogues for us, and to everyone who's put this evening's fantastic event together. And I'd now like to pass over to Dr. Matt Jones, Senior Lecturer in Film and Television, who has been instrumental in creating this particularly exciting moment of cultural inquiry, to introduce our inspiring speakers for tonight. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Jay. That was very kind. As Jay says, I'm Dr. Matt Jones. I'm a senior lecturer in film and TV here at the University of Exeter, and the lovely person standing next to me is Nina Tapp, who is one of our MA students on the Film and Screen Studies course. A few months ago, on what was otherwise a fairly ordinary Tuesday afternoon, Mina came to see me in my office. We chatted at some length about a module of mine that she was taking, the scholarly articles I'd asked to read that week, and the upcoming assessments she was worrying about. Just as we started to wrap things up, and as my mind started to drift to the contents of my fridge back at home, Mina casually slipped into conversation with what I think was carefully practiced nonchalance, that her godparents were film and TV legends. I paused for a moment and collected my jaw from the floor to where it seemed to have escaped, and composed my face back into its more traditional composure. And I said, well, I suppose we could possibly invite them down. It's entirely feasible that we might be allowed to do that. And I think Mina's nonchalance was much more effective than mine. And so, several months later, here we are, with our jaws correctly reattached and our composure at least superficially maintained, to introduce our guests to you.
Sue Vertue is one of the most influential figures in British film and television history, and has led an extraordinary career that spanned decades of entertainment. From working as a production editor in the late 1980s and 1990s, she went on to work as a producer and now is CEO, board director, and executive producer at Hearts and Films, which is associated with many of our favourite all litteratures, such as Sherlock, BBC Scrapner, and obviously Douglas's Cancel, Frankie Golden, Kermode, and Exeter. In the early years of her career, Sue worked in projects and unusual characters for ushers and British broadcast and the rules of the director and staff of the British creative industry as well. She worked on productions featuring a number of national icons from Miss Deans and Fogger, Jeremy Granger, and She's even used her just common series traveling across two things and very around series with writers that may about it also in Philadelphia. There are two colleges to wide cameras that are series price including recent stress as easy that I as is no hours and I need you time of the story. Alongside each managing and advancing authority that the suit is more when it's targeted as a slaughtering the curse at the predator only. This is only a really powerhouse here research and constant and sort of constant integration thing. Beyond the same various outputs, see that on board the national that as their research nation. He is another Bafta's TV connected and is the award for national music. She is extremely confident to set us to learn about understand how to say
Given that all Mina's just told us, it should seem fairly obvious that Stephen Moffat's most profound achievement is convincing Sue to marry him. Well, that being said, he's been no slouch in his own career and has a CV that equals hers in the breadth and significance of its successes. He began his career as a screenwriter of all the 43 episodes of ITV's comedy drama Press Gang, which ran from 1989 to 1993. Drawing on his own experience as a teacher, this children's series was pure narrative quicksilver, moving in a heartbeat from offbeat humour to dreamlike fantasy and raw emotional honesty. Touching on issues unfamiliar in children's television, such as drug and solvent abuse, child abuse, and gun violence, the series has been lauded by critics and provided a launchpad for a writer whose work would continue to slip seamlessly across genres and to collide the everyday with the fantastic, the comedic, and the darkest corners of human experience. Alongside this experimentation with genre and tone, Stephen's work has continued to draw from his own life experiences. His second project, Jokes in the Park, broadcast between 1993 and 1995, told the story of a television sitcom writer experiencing the breakdown of his first marriage. 1997's Chalk returned to the familiar setting of the schoolhouse, while, as Mina noted, Coupling, broadcast between 2000 and 2004, tells a fictionalised story of Sue and Stephen's own relationship. Stephen's work is often characterised by his fascination with narrative form and structure. The use of non-linear storytelling to reconfigure and wryly expose the established conventions of TV and film genre can be seen in Joking Apart, but perhaps found their clearest expression in Coupling. This is epitomised by an episode such as 9.5 Minutes, which draws from the Rashomon playbook by showing the same moment from 3 different perspectives. Or Split, which explores the impact of a breakup by juxtaposing the experiences of 2 different characters using a split screen throughout. This playful, innovative approach to storytelling has been a hallmark of Stephen's work. Stephen has also shown a real delight in revisiting and reworking beloved characters and stories, challenging audiences with unfamiliar versions of their favourite heroes and villains. 2007's Jekyll, 2011's Hollywood adaptation of The Adventures of Tintin, 2020's Dracula, his worldwide hit series Sherlock, and of course the hugely successful run that he had as both a writer and a showrunner on Doctor Who, all saw him playfully remixing mythologies that had been created by other writers and adapting them to suit new formats, new periods, new settings, and crucially, new audiences. Stephen's ability to craft intricate stories that use our knowledge of genre, narrative, style, and form to sometimes trick, but always delight us, has led to him becoming one of Britain's most wildly successful, innovative, and perhaps uncategorizable contemporary creative figures. Stephen and Sue, we are delighted to have you here in Exeter. Thank you ever so much for coming. And before I hand over to Linda and Mark, I believe we have a little showreel of your work.
I've known hundreds of murderers, every kind. Still can't get it through my head how a guy like you winds up in this place. Anybody can wind up in this place. Anybody at all. You should know that. Everyone is a murderer. You just have to meet the right person.
Although, I have loved this little game of ours, playing Jim from IT, playing gay. Did you like the little touch with the underwear?
People have died.
That's what people do! This is devilry.
It's worse than that.
Like,
It is the devil.
Because I was grateful about your intimate was I but I don't know about you girls, but I do love a bit of fur.
Same face, same scar, older.
Yes,
Don't. Try to work it out.
don't play with them. Just explain.
Explain what? There are two of us. We're identical, and he's older than me. Go for it, smart guy.
Oh my god.
Oh my God. There it is. I'm starting to see the lights go.
You're clones.
What? Clones? Jesus Christ. Where's the sci-fi? There's no such thing as clones. Time travelers. Clones.
I'm not stupid, Barry. I know you think that you're the one in control because I'm the one locked in your cellar. But I'm not going to make this easy for you. I promise you that. I promise you hell.
Sorry. Should have knocked. Douglas, there's been a development. The Hay people.
Have they cancelled?
No, they are changing the interviewer. It's going to be a woman.
Which one?
A Newsnight one.
Oh, fuck.
Which does rather suggest they might be going a bit, feminist, no offence.
Depends.
So, God forbid, they might want to talk about the joke.
Toby, sorry, there's been a retweet. Madeline's been retweeted.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's a big one.
Who?
Yeah, I retweeted Madeline.
It was my idea.
But we're trying to close this down. We're trying to end this.
Shout it.
I'm not shouting.
I was defending him. Why wouldn't you retweet me?
Because we want this to be over.
Stop shouting.
I'm not shouting.
Oh, it's my wife.
I'll step out.
No, you don't have to. I'm sure it's just
Madeline, a word.
I know what you're going to say.
What the fuck? Fuck.
Yeah, I retweeted Madeline. It would look odd if I didn't. She was defending me.
Shit. That's an amazing show, Rob. We're so delighted to have you. Thank you. Thank you for coming. He wants to thank you for about your things and sort of anticipate some things that the students in the room might be interested in hearing about in particular. We're very well aware that you both together, you both independently, and also before you started to work together, you were developing your ways. So I wonder if we can just start with you, Sue, and ask how you got from there to here. What made you start on the journey of producing? It's the song. I just wanted to do something. I actually started as a runner because I think everybody starts as a runner, and I started in commercials. However much you train as anything else, you still start to be thing. And I still worked my way up in that world in production assistant, and then a production manager. And then I became a freelancer. Then I moved over to TV and dropped back down again. And sort of worked my way up. It took quite a long time. Even when I started producing, I think producers generally have a real kind of imposter syndrome. I think because it's quite hard to say what we do, so we always think we're going to be found out. We still now, actually. And you just have to start using your own voice and trusting the fact that what you're saying means something. I think especially with producing, I think you can't, I'm not a writer. So if I'm going to give notes to Stephen, all I can say is, I didn't quite get that bit, or I do something else. There's no point in trying to write because I'm not a writer, really. So I think you just have to go with your general gut instinct. Yeah,
So, Stephen, in that period before you get a note from Sue, tell me about how the press gang came about. Because there's a version of the press gang story that sounds too good to be true. How did press gang happen?
I was wanting to be a playwright, and I told my father that's what I wanted to be. I'd written plays that literally no one wanted to put on, and I went on myself. So I'm a two. But okay, a long time ago, you will remember. Probably none of you will have heard of this. There was there was a religious television program which featured Harry Seeker, one of the goons, wobbling around schools and singing menacingly at children. One of the schools featured on this extraordinary piece of broadcasting was my father's school. My father was the headmaster of on primary school in Johnson. And my dad, ever the opportunist, and always trying to get something going for me, said, I've got an idea for a great children's television show. The producer obviously started edging away because he had this conversation before. But my dad's very persistent. He said, no, it's a brilliant idea. It's about a children's newspaper, a newspaper written by children and run by children. In fact, he wasn't having an idea for that at all. He had an education kit based on that. But he offered you. And the guy said, yeah, thanks, and went away. But 2 years later, that guy, Billy Ward's new American girlfriend, turned up at my dad's school and said, I want to develop your idea for television, but I can't give you any money, which is something you're very familiar with. And my dad said, that's fine, you can do that so long as my son can write it. And Sandy said, before you think it was that easy, Sandy said, I will under no circumstances employ your son to write this, but I will let him write a pilot script and tell him what's wrong with it, which was fair enough. My dad came very excitedly home to tell me what this big break he'd got from me, and I said, Dad, I do not want to write children's television, said the future showrunner of Doctor. Now, I want to write theatre, serious stuff, but I'll give it a go, I suppose. Sons are awful, aren't they? I mean, you're all young, you know how terrible you are, don't you? So I wrote it, and as luck would have it, Sandy absolutely loved it. And I ended up writing all 43 episodes of Press Gang. There's not a lot to glean from that in terms of handy hints about how to get into television. Loitering around religious broadcasters growing not with the trail. Dead for me.
But it ended up not just being successful, but winning awards. So the first thing you did was an award winning success.
Yes, it was. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes, and one of after. One of my 5. Where do you want to go from there?
That is not surprising, but also sounds quite fluky. Did you always want to write? Did it exist?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely always wanted to, and was always writing from a very young age. And I was constantly fascinated by the idea of writing scripts. That's the thing I really wanted to do. To get more specific about this, what I wanted to do was write Doctor Who. Because Doctor Who...
Sherlock meets Doctor Who?
I did Sherlock meets Doctor Who years before any of you asked, on 8mm with my sister playing both parts. It's not the dream you had, but it's there on 8mm and so on. But anyway, what was it I did? I've forgotten what I was talking about. Wasn't it?
Writing? Always writing.
Writing all the time. Writing Doctor Who. I mean, I was fascinated by Doctor Who because old Doctor Who, you've seen it, it sort of invites you behind the scenes because you can so often see behind the scenes. You start getting interested in it. So really, I tried to write Doctor Who stories. I wrote all manner of things. I put plays on with my friends. I wrote things from my dad's. I was constantly writing.
Yeah.
So tell us about how you first started working together. We've heard already that an entire series came out of your emerging relationship. How did you first meet and start working together?
Well, I went to Edinburgh and pulled.
I was actually asking.
Yeah. But the producer you were working with at the time said...
Who facilitated the phone call.
Yes.
Yeah.
But at that point, he said, even before we'd even had our first date, he said, promise me you won't work with them for a year, which I did.
Yeah.
Then the first thing we did was...
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
It
was permanently trying to get Doctor Who back. So when I was producing Kermode live that year, and so we did this Doctor Who sketch. I produced quite a lot of Doctor Who.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you produced the most famous ones: Ron Atkins, Nicky Grant, Richard E. Grant, Jim Broadbent, and Joanna Bell. Yeah, must be.
Sorry, I was just going to say that you both worked in Holiday. So how I'm really interested in the question about
there's a sitcom and you're a sports crew session and got a sitcom and you said, that's sort of been in a sitcom format and an idea. But how did you develop? Was it just obvious you were going to develop comedy together?
Well, you came in one day and you just wrote something down, didn't you? Which was basic couple.
Good.
And it was, you said, when we get together, it's not just us getting together, it's our friends, our best friends, and a better group getting together. I mean, sitcom, we've both done one and we love it. And it's a sort of, we do one now. Sitcom.
And the audience would want it. The audience likes it.
There's so few people that will do it. The super directors know how to do it, actually. Mr. B is in front of an audience, Dibley was in front of an audience, Cuthbert. And you love it because you do the reads for the beginning, and that's when you sort of know if it's funny or if there's any work you done. I would always, on that first read script, I will tick a joke. I'll tick a joke with one false thing in the first read script. Because I think when you read the script again, you forget where the laughs were. You forget it's a new laugh and you get bored with it. And especially with sitcoms, what will happen is they'll start rehearsing it, and by about day 3, they'll get bored with the joke and they'll try and change it or lose it or whatever. And then we rehearse all week, and then you do it on Friday and have a party. Then you start again the next week. We love it.
Yeah, it was great.
Can you tell us something about how you worked in? You live in, I'm presuming you live in the same house.
Yes.
You live in, no, not
Not everyone does, do it?
but presumably you have an area that you work in and you have an area that you work. How is it delineated in terms of your different? How do you working days? What does it complete?
Well, I go to the office and Stephen works mostly from home. If I come home and we do a Zoo together, we Zoom from totally different places, and then, like within America or something, and suddenly he'll pop in and we have tea or something. And that's when they probably realise that we were in the same.
And then do you get together at the end of the day and discuss what you did in this? Like your writing must be something you do on your own.
Yes.
So you work solidly on your own during the day. You work meeting with other people. And do you come up together at the end of the day and discuss what's happened during the working day?
Yeah. I mean, when I say "How was your day, darling?" it's quite a loaded question. The basic means how and sex. I mean, you're doing well at the moment. So I'll be in a void about what he's writing for quite a long time. The one you're doing, I read 50 pages.
Yeah.
So it's film you do, which I love. But I hadn't seen that since 50 pages in, and now I know it.
100%.
And that's deliberately because you don't want anyone else to see it until it's developed.
Look, when you've been a writer for a long time and you live in a house with other people, they're not desperate to read your stuff. I moved to tears when someone volunteers. Really? What would you? I mean, I'd been doing it joke by joke, frankly. So, yeah.
Also, it's got to be in the right place to read it.
Yes,
it does. But so if he gave me a script at 8:00 on a Friday night, I probably wouldn't read it.
Which is
So that's I'm sure we can't ask you much about it, but that's a film you just said is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you both already moving straight to TV and film and plays.
Yes.
But yeah, I'd like to do another one.
Yes, do that. So do you have any sense of those? A lot of people in the room would maybe think, I want to go to film, or I want to, it to be. And the thing is that it's quite boundary in arenas, but they're kind of not in grass that you're on.
No, I mean, when we say, we probably see it as a stream of film because we think it'd be nice to get it made.
Yeah.
Don't we?
Yeah. Screenplay is a script that never gets made, so that's what.
I think it is a problem. We see a lot of people that just want to make films, which basically means they quite often spend years and years not earning any money or getting anything made, or they can spend 10 years making the film and it goes out for a weekend and nobody sees it. And that's it. And I think TV has come up to such an incredible level nowadays. So
That's the one we love. But there's a great little, I forget where it is, but Alan Bennett starts something. He starts this little piece he's writing with. Film, theatre, and television are all very different. He says, The only reason I'm saying that is because everybody else does. I've never been able to tell the difference. It's people standing up saying stuff. I mean, I didn't think that different. I think you can move quite fluidly between.
Yes.
And
But was that
theatre
cancelled?
or was a play.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of your creative process, you're starting from the same position when you were a guest.
Yes.
You paraphrase, in each round is simple as other creative roles. Yes, and also obviously with other writing. You got internet
Seems a bit unnecessary.
your script going to be you start with a style and then it goes trap and updates on Friday. That's an amazingly unique but wonderful.
Oh, it's so exciting.
Yeah,
it's a great way to make time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was, if you look back in the schedules, audience sitcom was massive. And when you do a good one, and you still do good ones like Lee Mack shit and so on, they're still huge. But there's a massive snobbery about them in the end. She's so real shit. Why do you think that is? I have absolutely no idea.
I think it's an after. I think it's a lot to do with that.
Yeah, people get very, I don't like to be told when to laugh, so well, don't go to a comedy play then. I presume these guys stand around at parties and think, too much laughter in here. I don't like being told when things are amusing. I'm going to go and sit in my own. I bet you do, because you're a TV critic and you don't have any bloody friends, do you? Hello, mate, how are you? You all right? This is going to happen. I'm going to get worried.
Let's address the elephant in the room. Do you read reviews and do they matter?
Yes and yes. I don't know how much they matter a bit. They will have an impact on me, certainly. Anyone who says they don't read them, all they mean is they don't read them straight away. Like David Tennant won't read them, but he'll read them later. When it's less.
But even if you decide not to read them, somebody is going to send you the worst one. And it's really unfair what they're saying.
And it can be massively depressing. The Time Traveler's Wife that was shown there, I think the most shockingly bad set of reviews I've ever seen. It was extraordinary. When you're going around the morning after the press saying, I'm not actually romantically attracted to children, you've had a bad set of reviews. And this is true, and don't worry, because it has got a happy ending. But in the same week as I was getting these reviews, I was diagnosed with cancer. I'm fine now. It's okay, it's fine. But I was sitting there reading my positive biopsy thinking, this is not the worst feedback I've had. And you know that thing they say, life and death issues reveal your real priorities? They don't. And I was sitting there thinking, could die of that, but have you seen what it says in your life? Honestly, nothing changed. Nothing changed.
I say, but if it's true that a negative review will stay, is it true that a positive review will uplift, or do you just ignore them because you said it before, imposter syndrome? Yeah. And you most suffer from the thing that if you read a positive review, you think, yeah, but I don't know.
I skimmed through the good bits to find the although, but I actually can identify.
And I know which bit you're going to pick out.
Yeah, so just be one sentence. However, the ending was slightly less funny than the rest. I was like, look, you don't see that.
Falls back on cleverness.
My favourite is that Sherlock falls back on cleverness. Well, that's quite a good thing to fall back on, isn't it? You think, what we do well, just be clever.
So
we're going to stop about it, isn't it?
So, yes, are you more sanguine about it? Because you seem to be sitting there being more sanguine about it. Do you not? It doesn't seem you are with the stuff.
In a purchasing the reviews, they do matter.
To be clear,
they do matter, but they can ruin your day.
Mm.
But I'll try. I mean, I just know that you'll take them more personally than I will, but because I think
my name.
Well, they are normally more personal to writers than they are to producers. We sort of get away. Yeah, we can blame anybody. That's amazing. So but no, they hurt. They do hurt. So, do you have to handle that? Anything with the team?
Well, you get over it relatively quickly. I would say, in fairness to Mark's profession, that overall, looking back at it sort of objectively, reviews do more good than harm. By which I mean, good reviews, none of us would have heard of Ricky Gervais's The Office if it hadn't been for the reviews. Because these fantastic reviews and tiny ratings. So good reviews have an impact that bad reviews don't, I would suggest. And sometimes a good review can change your mind. And if you read a good review of something you dislike, sometimes you think, actually, they've got a point there. I've never known a bad review to make me dislike something I already like. So no, I think we do have their place.
I think it's when they're personal.
It's when they mention I'm a misogynist bastard. I don't like. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I mean, what's wrong with being a misogynist bastard? No, I don't mean that. That is hilarious.
If it makes you any happier, I made a documentary about The Exorcist, the scariest film ever made. Reviewing the Telegraph said the scariest thing about that documentary is that bloke who presents.
That is a bit personal. Jesus. You know.
Still, a huge list of wonderful successes, and see anyone in the room, really interested to ask you questions of any Tron. But if you, any of these stories made you feel nervous from things you felt were quite success?
What do you mean there were?
Did you have other projects that you feel or that was weakness is what really used?
Oh no, I mean I don't think things stand or fall in these truthfully. I just think my day does. And sometimes they can illuminate something. I mean, probably Press Gang benefited from some madly good reviews because children's television didn't get any. But yeah, sometimes you have a thing that, I mean, mostly you have a show or you make a show you think is quite good. It's all right. And mostly you think, well, that bit wasn't quite right. But overall, I think sometimes you think, well, there was one sitcom I made which didn't work. And I knew before, I sort of talked myself into believing it was good. And then I remember watching an episode of it drunk. And all the defenses were done. I just, this is really annoying.
And so how did it got to that stage where you were then able to adapt it? I mean, you really needed to turn around.
Yeah, but there's a million mistakes to make and only one right punt.
Yeah.
If you get an absolute storming thing that's absolutely right, that happens once or twice in your entire life. Mostly, I think you do pretty well. You make a few mistakes, but there's so many different ways you can get it wrong. I mean, it always seems very obvious in the other end.
It's as much effort to make a thing that goes wrong.
Yes.
And there's so many elements you've got to try and put together. You've got to get the cast, you've got to get the script right, the casting right, get the look right. I mean, sometimes something could just be off because it just feels too down.
I think we've always said you learn more from your failures than your success. Your failures make you humble and work harder. Your successes make you arrogant and convinced wrongly that you know something. So failures are going to be a huge part of your life.
Think about the things that got away. I mean, so other projects that you wanted to bring to fruition that you probably the sort of rebellious reasons haven't.
Various things we tried. We at one point pitched to see if we could get and go at doing maybe a reboot on, but we got nowhere.
We'll keep going.
We'll see.
Or some stays safe.
Wasn't that? Well, hopefully some. And there's various things. I've got of the 5 scripts I was touting around recently. One of them is going to get made. So there's four sitting on my desk at home that are not currently getting made.
So at any one time, do you both have a number of irons in the fire? Any one which might take off?
Yeah. Sue more than me. Sue have a whole bunch of things.
Does that not make planning your day-to-day life very complicated?
Well, you just have to assume that they're not all going to happen at the same time.
Yeah.
And work it out if it does. I mean, actually, when you did, and when it does all happen, because we never did the final bit of coupling, actually, did we? That's Exeter.
Yes.
So sometimes you just have a commission that actually you never.
But you have that.
You heard that.
There was season 5 of coupling was commissioned, and we decided that was one season too far, and so we added that. And it's tough.
And it's never the one you think is going to go.
Yeah, it's never when you think, and however hard you try, they always go at the same time. A number of times I've been doing things. I mean, in my days of doing Sherlock and Doctor Who, every year they try the BBC and move those two shows around so that I wasn't doing them at the same time. And they always ended exactly the same time. Exactly. Because it wasn't my schedule of counting. It was Peter Capaldi's or Benedict's or Matt's, So eventually there would just be a nightmare section of my life when we were doing both at the same time.
So all the various projects on each of your slates, are you driving them forward sort of this was to get priority because of other interest, or you can just get a throat to get made and you're absolutely pissed I'm wrong. Or some things go forward and then often get made. And
Sometimes timing as to what you suddenly think that Sky might want that now or something. So quite often it's having the right project for the right channel at the time. Yeah. I mean, other times, I've got one at 6:30. I've got a show which I've got the right UK rights for. It's a French series. They're 5 minutes long. These episodes. It's the most unstereotypical. But somebody will get it because I think it's a brilliant idea. It's a lovely show, and somebody will do it. But it doesn't make any sense to take that on. I just fell in love with it when I saw it on a jury. So I will get that made at some point. Things like that. They'll just take longer. Until 5 minutes becomes boom.
But what you never started in, the era of terrestrials, energy or television. What differences the three of us made? Everything difference is how does it actually make a difference to the day-to-day way that you do your jobs?
I don't think it does that much. Most of the studios in the UK run by CP. I mean, at the moment we have a major financial problem, genuinely, with drama. We can't buy enough.
Why?
Because the broadcaster's going to only give a certain amount of money. The Americans aren't doing co-production, really don't take co-production. Advertising, the bottom's falling out of that, so that you can't sell things in the same way, especially comedies can be a really, really hard time. So we get some money from tax credit, but you have to go around far more piecemeal. So Douglas's Council didn't have a co-producer in America. It normally would. Most of our dubs had a co-producer, like Netflix or something. So then we got the money from Sky Showtime in Europe, and then some distribution money, and some tax credit. And now it's sold to America, but that was only after it had been done. So, and the streamers aren't doing as much as they were. So that kind of absolute kind of boom around the 1920, around the 90s, I think, has disappeared. It's sort of dropped back now to pre-COVID level. But there's just a lot of shows, BBC that are city films. They green light them and they can't get the rest of the money at the moment.
And how much do you think? I mean, you grew up. Your mother obviously had a kind of history of benevolence. How much did you grow up understanding how programs come together? Because you must have learned a lot at an early age.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I've learned a lot from her about the business and diplomacy.
Just to get good boundaries.
Sorry. My mother's Vertue, so she started Hartswood years ago. She used to work with Robert Stigwood, and so I was an agent for Gorton and Simpson and Hancock and Luxford. And was the most incredible woman. But was incredibly fair, very honest, and that's what I think we learned from her. Her great thing about being able to sleep at night. So just make sure you're decent to people, don't lie to them, and do what you think's right. And I think that's it's really good stead. Interesting, not so much putting the deal together because it's changed so much. I mean, she was very instrumental in terms of trade and copyright because we didn't used to earn our copyright. So at the beginning of coupling, the copyright was BBC, and by the time you finished it, it was Hartswick, which makes a huge difference. So the deal is always changing. You just have to keep going with it and keep up to date and find ways to fund things and get things together. We can mow. It's the best business. You do. It's just there are different challenges that we have to.
Is the future bright? I mean, everyone said the last few years have been terribly used to the things have gone. Is the future bright, or is it?
I hope so. I mean, it was 5 to 25. Now they're saying something like it exists to 26. I mean, that's a note to provide probably. I think it's going to turn around. I think there's going to be more consolidation of companies. We've just gone in with ITV Studios now, which I love. I love being with more people. Getting a bit lonely, I think. So I think there's more consolidation of companies happening, I think. But I think the UK is, I think we're in the best of the world at what we do. I don't think that's going to change. So I think it is bright. It's just been a little bit tough and rocky for a while. We've got to learn how to make shows cheaper. But, you know, we've got new stories, we've got the best writers in the world, got the best crews in the world. So I think it's fine. What about international relationships then, particularly in comedy? How, you know, because people might think comedy doesn't travel particularly well. I know formats haven't travelled very well. So, I mean, how do you work internationally in terms of what's coming? Well, comedy isn't selling well at the moment, and that is a problem because they can't plan on them properly at the moment. And I don't know why. I mean, something sold around the world really well is that your play, which is a comedy, is selling everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, they're formatting that everywhere. So I would like to think it's a flip. I mean, you've got to find something that works around the world. Okay.
Should be said that your mum, Beryl, invented the J format.
Yeah.
She invented, no, no, never done it. She invented it with, was it Upstairs, Downstairs, Beacon Hill, till Death Us Do Family becomes
All the family.
all the family. So she actually created that idea.
Yeah, I do selling a format called the shoving.
Yeah.
So every time that happens, she should have been getting money.
Yeah.
Because it was her idea.
Yeah. She's a legend.
Ah,
She
she
absolutely is. Molly was on, British TV, and she's out.
She was also the agent of the Daleks.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. She was the agent of the Daleks. She read the script, Terry Nishel's script, because she was Terry Nishel. She saw the Daleks in, and then before there was a design around, she said, I think we should keep copyright for the Daleks. The BBC were making this crappy sci-fi show, said, I did. And making millions for Terry Nation. And of course, creating BBC Enterprises, which is now worldwide, because they first existed in order to exploit the Daleks. Such is the reach of that one. Yeah.
After all this time, are you still a fan of the sort of, you started out very interested, you were a fan of Doctor Who, a fan of television. Are you both still fans? I was completely normal. I still find it strange. You're talking about things, some of which are sort of like sacred.
Yeah.
Do you still get other?
Oh, I don't think so. We got. Do you know I denied it when we first met? Because I didn't think it was a cool thing. I said something.
Would it be can't be a Star Trek?
No, it's really not. None of those things are. None of them. You have to ask his school. It's not. No, she asked me something. I said something. She, are you a Doctor Who fan? I said, nah. Nah.
This is not a movie.
No, I didn't say that. Just nah. That show. And I was thinking, even then, what happens if she comes back to the fly? What do I do with it? I could hide it under the pole. Yeah, it's fine.
I said, who are these people you meet once a month?
Yeah, I said, yeah, just friends.
So, you're the first to meet, first glimpse through the door, like actually being part of this furniture.
Yeah.
Well, what was it doing?
With breast.
With
Doctor Who. I still quite started with any of that. So that show that was I shamefully had to admit before Stu came back to my flat very well night suddenly became the coolest show in the country. I never expected that. I didn't expect to be writing. I certainly didn't expect to be show running it. Having quit show running, I certainly didn't expect to come back and write the most recent Christmas Pay. All of that, none of that. That's all. I loved it. I loved that show. I'm
just being scared.
I've just been to a Doctor Who convention in LA. This is not making me call all your questions. Paul, I'm just getting this. Did you tweet? Yeah. What are the conventions like? This. Well, they're lovely, actually. There's a sort of a joy about them because everybody is so unbelievably happy to be in a very dull airport hotel. No, they are. They're just over the moon. They're joyous. And that's rather nice to walk through, you know? So, no, I mean, I can be cynical if you like. I'm not really. They're fans. They're bloody loving it. They're dressing in ridiculous costumes, which they do know are funny. There's a Dalek wandering around. There's a man dressed as Jodie Whittaker. Right. Where else going to get this? Sue doesn't come. You don't.
Sunday, I go to San Diego. Or, yeah.
That's not a Doctor Who convention.
No,
That's
I go to a comic book. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of some of the, the other projects that Matt was alluding to earlier, there's formats, there's stories, there's gender and Dracula. How easy are those to, get off the ground, get a finish? How do you approach, and spin on this?
Well, it has to be something that you're rather excited about.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing I liked when I was a kid was Sherlock Holmes. And me and Mark adore Sherlock Holmes stories. And we thought, well, do you know how this really happened? Was we were on a train all the time going to Doctor Who, who was being made in Cardiff. And because we're mates, we always got the same train. And we sat there talking about Doctor Who. Then people started listening. People started moving closer. So we changed the subject. Thought, okay, what else do we both love? We both love Sherlock Holmes. But boom, 1 year later, we couldn't talk about that either. So it was, I think you have to love it and think that you have a version of this that people should see. That you know or understand something about this that no one else has noticed. In the case of Sherlock, what Mark and I thought we had was Sherlock Holmes shouldn't be a period piece because he wasn't. If you read the original stories, they're set in Victorian London because that's the world outside Sir Arthur's window. And he was a contemporary young man living in modern London, doing modern things with his flatmate, right? So that's what it was. And then it becomes slowly covered in fog and goes at its sepia identity. And for some bizarre reason, he's always presented as in his 50s when he's not. He's clearly quite young. So we just thought if we took Sherlock Holmes and scraped all the Victoriana off, it could be what it was. And I submit we had a success with that. That worked. But all we were really doing was just saying, if you take Sherlock Holmes, put him in modern day, stick to what he did, stick to his idea, Doyle's idea of Sherlock Holmes, you would have him. We did it. But I think if you're adapting something, you have to be in love with it. You actually have to be in love with it.
And then maybe people that don't know that they're in love.
That's really saying, no, you think you know what the show is, but you think you know what Sherlock Holmes is, but it's not, it's this. That's really important. If you think you're there, God help you. As many people who've tackled Sherlock Holmes over the years have thought, we're here to fix Sherlock Holmes. No, you're not going to fix Sherlock Holmes. That's the most successful character in fiction, and I have no idea what is in second place. Right? Sherlock Holmes is the top 15 popular characters in the world, right? He's just the best. Nothing else right. So you do not correct it. What we did was adapt it into the modern game. But it's brilliant. And I wanted people to know.
And do you have to love something to produce it as well?
Yeah. Yeah, you've got to want to watch it on TV. I'd never make anything that I didn't think was going to be great. It takes so much time and energy. Can you imagine doing something that you thought was going to be fine?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, actually, the Sherlock thing, you and Mark pitched it to me because I knew very little about Sherlock Holmes. I hadn't even seen many of them. I vaguely knew about Moriarty. That was it, I think. And
so we sat and pitched what we thought Sherlock Holmes was to you. Yeah. And that was a useful guide for us because we are tragic fanboys. We can disappear off into the fanboy status, which doesn't really exist, but we like to do that. And so if we had to keep sensible and say, why would Sue watch this? Why would Sue like this? That needs to be. But Sue always says she won't do a show unless she's passionate about it. Even if you think it's good, if you're not passionate about it, you won't then the 18 months.
Somebody else
to
can do
make
it better. Somebody
Yeah.
else always can.
That's absolutely.
So are you both able to look at your complete body of work and say, I'm proud of all, even the things that didn't work out well? Are you proud of others or other things? I mean, I know I've realised this, I've been at it.
Oh, I mean, there's things that I don't think are as good as other things, but most of but
I mean, I think some things didn't turn out
as well.
as a thing, or some things don't cut through. You really think they will, and they just don't. I mean, Dracula we're very proud of, but I don't. It
Didn't quite cut.
doesn't win.
Yeah.
And we can do as much as we want to blame and say, well, it's 90 minutes, 3 days running. It was only so because of course somebody's going to miss it, but it just didn't cut through as.
But in terms of just say putting it on video on the television, we think this is good. Personally happy to do that with the vast majority. Yeah, not all of it. I mean, there are hardly any hits like Shadow. Everything we ever do will stand in the shadow of that because it was, it is deep ludicrous how big that was. Max. So nothing will ever you can match that. You can't think that. You can't, because you're not in control. You're not in control of whether or not it's a hit. You're in control of whether or not you made it as well as you could. That.
Overwhelmed. Boots.
Yeah. No, complete that. It was up.
Are you leaving?
You don't.
I just thought
Hasn't gone well, darling.
I just thought something we watch, and I realised that
And
we talked for a long time.
What? Okay.
We've got a rousing like maybe two.
It's wonderful.
So if you'd like to ask any questions, wave your hand in the air. It's one of us, but first there, and then Rosa, you're after us.
Yeah.
Oh,
So you find you.
Oh, shout.
sorry, Jenna. Did that.
Hi there, my name's Alex. I'm actually coming down tonight. I was shooting in our shower. Do you think there will be room to revive it, or are you happy where things go there?
We'll do it in a heartbeat. We'll do it in a heartbeat. We are not the big ticket item. I regret to inform. So there's a bit of we'd have to get Benedict and Martin to do it. I vaguely assumed that at some point, maybe, that it would happen again. It seems nuts to have a really good version of the most durable format ever created, and probably the one that has slightly owned that character for this little era. It seems mad not to be doing the occasional show. I love writing. Mark loves writing. We love making it. So, yeah, it's a shame. So we're not against it. It's not us you have to persuade, but we're easy.
I was stirring the set. I realised we probably could have built the set about 8 times over the amount of money I'm paying on storage, but it's still there.
No, we have to.
It's better.
That.
Right, that was really interesting. So, I'm sure I question for Steve already. I suppose I think a lot of fiction writers are great to write dialogue. Mostly writing scripts, that's kind of almost entirely what you do. I mean, do you have any hints or tips for writing realistic dialogue that actually sounds in a way you actually tweet?
Well, no dialogue is how people actually talk. I mean, if you ever listen to the way people actually talk, they wander around and it takes ages. So dialogue isn't like that. Truthfully, just picking up the first thing, it's not the main thing that you do when you write a script. The main thing you do when you write a script is the plot. I mean, it really is. And by the plot, I mean just the structure, the story, what happens next and what happens next and what happens next. If you handed me a script that had the best story in the world, but the dialogue was all crap, I could have that fixed for you by the next day, maybe by later that day. That's not the hard thing to do. In terms of writing dialogue, you must say it. You must walk. I mean, my son frequently. My son's an actor, and I'm afraid I have to read in for him when he's doing self tapes. And the amount of crap dialogue right there, and you just think you've never ever read this out loud. You must read it out loud, and you sort of simulate the rhythms of speech, but the way people talk in television and movies, theatre, even theatre, is it's very much terser and more to the point with the way people really talk. But the way to learn how to do it is to listen to the dialogue of the best. I mean, Quentin Tarantino's dialogue. Listen to that for a day, and you'll just come out writing better dialogue. You will, because he's so amazing.
If we have anyone staying in our house, though, we have to explain to them that Stephen is actually on his own in his office.
It's all right if I'm doing a rom-com. I just sound slightly eccentric. But if you're writing Doctor Who and you say, the shadows stop rise, stop falling. I did that once in an airport. I was writing something, I think in my David episode, and I moved over to a corner to with my laptop typing away. And I was fairly safe here. And as I get up to finish that lyric, there's a guy sitting directly behind, and he's like this. Trying to work out when you're flying. What is he on? Because apparently the shadows will rise.
Hi, I'm Joe. Thanks again for a very interesting talk. I'm afraid yet another shell question. There was a couple of years I looked it up to check. It was 2 years. I was deeply frustrated with you in a nice way, simply because you ended one of the shows with, I think it was the second series, we had a real cliffhanger was Sherlock dead? At least he wasn't. How on earth?
No, you saw he was alive at the end. Get it right, son. No wonder you're frustrated. You're not paying attention.
I agree with her. But what is the dream sequence? Is it his mind? Is that not how could anyone possibly survive that? And so there's 2 years of everyone on a cruise as it was then discussing theories, posting skills, probably theories didn't explain how he could have survived.
Yeah.
Which of course still never actually echoes what happened to Kevin Doyle when he killed off Sherlock Holmes and that, but trying to stay out of it. I was wondering if you talk about that period instead of either if you went to any conventions during that period or whether people tried to get the secret out of you. And I think it's something you do right up quite a bit is that you sometimes have violent twists. Do you start off thinking I really was a twist here, or do they come to you?
So what were these 2 years like? That was great fun because you knew the next episode coming up would get an audience, right? That was good. And that was around the same time Day of the Doctor was coming out, so I felt well important. It's all been declined since then. Twists? No, I mean, twists are really interesting. Really interesting because a twist can be the most irritating thing in the world. It's not that hard to surprise an audience. You just have to lie to them. Right? I mean, it's really, you're in complete control of the information flow. So it's not that smart to be able to surprise them because you're literally the only person talking in the room. So I think you've got to be careful. I think a twist has to feel justified in that, part of you has to think, I should have seen that coming. I was given every chance and I wasn't. I wasn't given that. That's what I thought for many years. And then I realized that's bollocks. That's not true. That's not true, because the best twist in the world is obviously, I'm your father. Darth Vader, right? That's the best twist in the world. I was sitting in the cinema when that rolled around the audience, and I went, wow! You couldn't exactly say, I should have seen that coming, because he definitely isn't his dad in the first film, right? I mean, that's just nuts. Do you know what makes the twist work? The reason that twist works is not because it was set up. It's not because of the cleverness. A twist works if you think, now the story is going to be even more interesting. That's why it works, I think. That's my theory of twist. It's my new theory of twist. Interview me in 20 minutes, I have a different... That in itself is a twist. Love a twist.
We were offered money and all kinds of things intervening. Then, like letters saying, Vertue's dying, you let us know. But and then when we went to film it, we filmed so many, because there were tons of people watching us film it.
Yeah.
So we just filmed all kinds of false ending. But anyone, you put Sherlock's coat on, you go and talk to him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and eventually,
the director said, "Can we just shoot the actual ending?"
And somehow we got away with the fact that we pulled a giant blue cushion underneath where he fell. We got away with that. It was about as obvious as could be, but there we go.
How do you resist, sort of all the community through social media and everything else, not to be swayed by that? I think if we all where the next series is, he's got a gap.
I think, it's tricky with the social media stuff. You really have to kind of ignore it. Because if you want audience research, you can have that. But Twitter, or X, as is absolutely nobody calls it, is not a good means of audience research. What you're looking actually is at a social grouping built around having a particular opinion, and you get admission to this particular group by expressing this opinion. Half them don't even mean the things they say, because I sometimes meet them. They don't think any of that stuff. You've kind of got to ignore it. You are not addressing that section.
I think what you did in that particular show up though is you took that and celebrated some of the
Yeah. I was going to not bring that.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it was what we did. Yeah, it was quite fun. That we had the people theorizing about it within the show. But again, that would have happened, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it happens within the show, the original show. I mean, where he fakes his death equally unconvincing. In both cases, both our version and the version that Doyle wrote, we are relying on Dr. Watson, the man who has never been right about anything in life. We're relying on his account. Well, Dr. Watson, your deductions certainly have never been wrong before, except always.
So on the other day of that silent one, when he kind of
the Al Norwood one. Yeah, there's some silent show at Comstock starring Al Norwood. They're very, very good. But they decide to finish it with the final problem. And they actually kill him. He just falls off. One slight change, it's Cheddar Gorge rather than Luke the Reichenbach falls, which really screws some of the lines. He plunged from the Reichenbach falls. Great. He plunged from Cheddar Gorge. Not so good. Not so good. But he does actually realistically horribly fall. He's just dead. He's just dead. So that was a bit.
We got these later. I when I shot it, have been having as images. I was just wondering the sequence there at current state of coming industry, how we anticipate that developing and the images need ahead, especially people that are not graduating soon for the career as good actors, television actors. How you anticipate changes and how people would need some that to our changing industry.
I think as a TV writer you don't need to worry about it too much, but be sensible when you're writing something. Don't make something stupidly expensive if it doesn't need to be stupidly expensive. But that's and I know it's hard when you start out wondering what is and isn't expensive. But if you've got somebody opening in a stadium with millions of people, that's expensive, so don't write that. Write smaller things to start with that you know well and are sort of different. I would say. I think we will be fine. I think we'll find ways of finding more money somewhere, or things will get a bit cheaper, or we'll just find better ways of shooting for stuff. Okay. There was massive, everything's about 40% more now than it was a few years ago. Inflation's been horrible. But on the other hand, everyone wants to work. So I think if we'll be fine, we're clever. Whistle.
I mean, everything Sue said is just absolutely true. But also, if there's any comfort, I have never been in television at a time that everyone wasn't saying it's all over. When I first arrived in television, I went to the Edinburgh TV Festival before I met Sue. And I was in that, oh, bloody hell. I've only just arrived and apparently he's been shut down. That's a bugger. Permanently there's saying that. And permanently there's reason to. But, there will still be television for you to. Maybe write the cheap.
Yeah.
But that was always the case.
Question there on the middle, and we'll come here.
Hello, I'm Sarah. I'm Calvin. So, just the struggles and some markets in the shows overseas. I was thinking colleagues. do you reckon there's truth in the fact that sometimes social comedy is not this and state? Well, she got being deep, so it's time isn't comedy. Most audience very well. So, yeah, so, was she her orange? Yes, yes, very much.
Yeah, I mean, certainly when we did with Spain, we specifically, if we could do something with a picture rather than a word, we would do a picture. Even like gentlemen and men, toilets, anything to avoid that language thing. I don't know whether maybe also in TV and in comedy in the UK, we've had a lot more kind of gentle comedy in the last few years, which I think haven't gone so well. As I said, coupling did go really well, but it's an international thing. It's people going out with people. It didn't go that well. Well, the American version
was a disaster.
Because they thought they were buying British friends and they weren't. It's about friends, I think. So I think if you've got something that's got a universal message or humour, I think there's no reason why. I think I'm just a bit downward at the moment. They go, oh, comedy doesn't export.
But I think you're broadly right. It's hard not to say that accents and languages are aplenty. But it's something, as I'm often fond of saying, I think Sherlock is 3/4 comedy. It's a funny show. And people laugh at it all over the world. So it must be possible. But you're right, sitcoms don't tend to translate unless they are literally remade, right? Even a massive hit sitcom like Friends, in the end, when it comes here, it's getting a massive hit audience of 4 million. It's not doing the business a local show. So I don't particularly know why. But yeah, Bernie.
Question just here.
I was thinking, you touched on it a little bit, I sort of really is talking more about how streaming has kind of affected the art-wise and then current-wise, especially your very big shows of things like show up, because you're streaming they're never going anywhere. They're going to keep bringing in new fans, younger generation, more and more. I wonder how, especially with reviewers being more in the position of the watcher, the streamer being the reviewer, how can you kind of, I guess, level with the more modern standards they're being held to when they're coming from an age gone?
It makes perfect sense. I think it's complicated. Certainly, you're absolutely right that television just stays on the shelf now. It's still available to you. A point I was making a while back about Doctor Who is Doctor Who competes with itself now. There's 19 years worth of Doctor Who on out there. Just saying. So you could, if you could either watch it this Saturday, you think, I might go and watch a Matt Smith or a David Tennant. You can do that. It's very hard to become sort of the unmissable appointment to view television show when you could watch it at any point for the next 20 years on your phone, right? I mean, that's just true. It has to change the nature of ratings. So we don't know for years if something's there or not. And it changes. I mean, I don't know. We're early on in this, but certainly it's true. I think people are quite smart, though, about knowing if they're watching an episode of Friends on Netflix. That it's not set now, and it wasn't made now. And that maybe we've got better at doing scenes of people driving cars. We've all got the filter that says this is all. So I think that's all right. But it's nice. It's nice. The sheer length of the afterlife is pretty great, like a book. People used to think you make films because they last a long time. Now you can make a TV show, and it will last a long time too.
I think what's quite interesting on the way things are moving around, those things are moving from place to place. So, like for instance, Sky have just put all the stuff on Netflix, Brassic, for instance, I think. So, which means that the last series of Brassic working really well on Sky and it's benefited from the fact that the 5 series are on. I know it wasn't what your question, but I just think it's interesting. The shows are moving around a lot more now.
And just here, and Janet and then you.
Thank you. Question of seeing them. This is interesting for me to have to write stories as you are storyteller. And what you Chris, the kind of is where do you pick up this is and your ones if you could start stories by those animals.
I like your stuff. Yeah.
Where's the others?
Oh, the trouble. Oh, sorry, are you finished?
Yes, questions with you. You obviously like the stories you can yes. It's my both these people were unnecessary and shreds times and it affects you.
Oh, I mean, easily. I mean, is the answer to that. I mean, honestly, the bliss you get is making it, and getting it put together and thinking, oh, that's really good. That's really bliss. There's loads of that. I always make the joke. Now we'll just keep it in the garden shed and not show it to people in case anyone's grumpy. But the truth is, it's either going to be hit or it's going to be a flop or it's going to be most of the time somewhere in between, right? So that's fine. That's fine. I mean, the thing to try and keep in mind is what is something that everybody knows at the beginning of their career and loses sight of. Success in television or film or theatre is getting it on. That's success. Never mind what happens after that, because you're not in control of that. Getting it made, getting your name up there in lights and seeing your jokes in front of an audience, that's the success. Everything else is gravy. I mean, or lack of gravy. It's not. But that's at the beginning. If you ask the young people here who are wanting to write stories and so on, what they're longing for isn't a BAFTA. They're longing just to see the show that they made with their name on it. That's what success is.
That must TV.
Thank you. So did you work again? So when you see writing this very clear that it will be less and around years and you don't really know and the first 2 minutes of the show will watch the whole series that planning. Even at the same time it seems there's no one can move in so many streaming services like well National Link Twister and Youth and like how can you always that with restaurants that seems to be giants and then chasing the next big thing with a ball competition. How do you see that doing within the next few years? And did you get more insight into the user, the viewers, and the students, or not?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that you've still got the overnights, which are a total waste of time. I don't know why they do them now. I mean, they're looking at plus 28s, really. And I suppose it's completion. I mean, the thing that we've had on Amazon, I don't know if I've had any feedback with yet about completion later. And then we've just done the third series. I suppose if I was waiting to get a third series commissioned and I was waiting, then you're a lot keener to find out how it's gone. And that's always quite nerve-wracking now because you have to wait. And then even on the BBC, you pretty much have to wait those at least 28 days before you can get a recommission, which means it's quite a lot of time. I don't know if they'll get any. They'll probably become more transparent, do you think?
Well, I think they'll become less transparent. I think there's less and less reason for them to give any figures out to all. And when Netflix put films into cinemas, the cinemas aren't allowed to turn a box on these figures. So if a Netflix releases in the cinema, they are literally not allowed to say each other was for the fear that it might damage the streaming. So I think you'll get less into it.
Well, that's great. We are protected from disappointment.
I don't know the stories. You're actually over there, just in front.
Thank you very much, Tan. With that, I'm interested. Creative. I'm under work you got intended is the one. What work which others you were favourite and which you could work on?
Oh, Doctor Who for me. So
It's not. It's that bloody show, isn't it? What's my favourite of Sue's?
Mostly.
Since we got together, we've mostly.
Yeah, mostly. I mean, even things like the devil's eye, you're still.
The Jumper's fantastic, but I'm sort of there. And Sue was not working on Doctor Who, but inevitably caught up reading the scripts and so on. And she doesn't hate it as much as she has it re-released. But so we have to go back a bit. We're talking about
We
stuff.
have to get back on.
Yeah, I mean,
We just like working with each other, really.
yeah, it's true. Picker and Dimly was a great show. Remember, I used to go watch that being taped when we were first get together.
And I should watch Preston. Watching it.
A couple of episodes of Doctor Who you haven't seen yet, by the way. Never mind. You have not seen the Snowman. You've not seen the Snowman.
When you said it, we like working together, someone went, "Oh."
I'm always surprised by that question.
What's it like working together?
Well, we kind of got married because we like being with each other.
Yeah, we met people that say, "Oh God, I can do work with my husband."
Well, why are you married then? What's that like? I mean, we do actually, we do actually love each other. So actually going to work together is a bonus, not a disadvantage. I wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'm so I mean, it's that I'm really deeply affects you. Is you don't want how do you find it in the us like long if you're working quite closely and developing an idea, right? How do you find it in something else in your how with rock?
You're not that intimate.
No, I think that's a good question though, because actually directors, I think at the beginning, worry about the fact that, they do. I mean, Ben recently was slightly worried.
Yeah.
Paul was slightly worried, but it does become a real team. And I think that's part of the thing we do is we make sure that you have a real team, so the directors feel part of that gang, really. And you want everyone to do their best work. So whether it's the director or the photography or whatever, the designer, everyone's working together. It's all a bit. So I don't think, and also we don't always agree. Which helps. Really, when we disagree. Things like casting, we would tend to pretty much go with them. If we don't all agree, it's a show of hands and who's the most passionate.
I think people assume that Sue and I will always be on the same side of any given argument, and the reverse is almost true. And we're frequently arguing with each other but in an amiable. The other thing is that we do specialize in only working with nice people. I mean, really, more people should do this. More people should just check other people, and we do. What are they like? Are they nice? Fine. And something like we did recently. The last thing we did was Douglas's Council, and everyone was just lovely. I wished I hadn't put cancelled in the title. That was a mistake. But we had such a gorgeous time.
But they're long days. You don't want to spend the whole day with people that just unpleasant.
Don't I?
I mean, the other thing I think we do, which sometimes a bit unique, is the writers, be it Stephen or Tom Moran, whatever. We try and have them on set every day, which again is quite unusual. Sometimes in the directors, you just talk to them beforehand and go, "That's going to happen," and you see them first of all thinking, "Oh," and then they love it. Because if something's not working or they need to change a line, they're there. You're always talking to the directors, aren't you? About something they're not sure about, or maybe they've just misunderstood a joke. All kinds of things, really. So that helps a lot.
Another question is in there. Hands up.
Thank you. Great with it. I'd say aside from seeing it on right, you are Brazil's your with the process. Like when you look at the show, how was that? Start the process. And it's the script you don't write it. And also like I'm not saying yes, like currently I'm in a studio like visually how he wrote it. And so I was at least take on it. They're just work
solids were RS.
Instead.
Right? Yes.
Well, in general, how I would write, I was just thinking about this today, because I had a little bit of a breakthrough today in terms of getting onto another scene. You can't see you were sitting opposite me on the train. You don't write a scene or a sentence or any of those things, or a text or a complaint to your doctor. You don't, well, maybe not that last one. You don't until you're excited about it. I'll know when I'm ready to write something. I'll be pacing up and down and ranting at myself. There's no point in just saying, well, you've got to get excited about it and think, this is going to be the best thing ever. It won't be. But for a moment, you're in a giddy place in the clouds where you think, wait till they see this, right? And remember, as a writer, you always sit in the audience. You're not a professional. You sit in the audience thinking, what I would like to see now is, right? Not, it's time for an epiphany, or have I reached the end of my first act, or something. There are no acts unless someone sells you jock ices, right? Just write the next exciting bit and get excited about it first. And think, well, and then sometimes you've got to scribble things down because that's going to be a brilliant light when I finally get to it and all that. So you get excited. Non-linear storytelling is natural to the human brain. It is. Linear is the one that's weird. Your memory is not stored. The story of you in your brain is not stored in the right order. If I ask you to think about your relationship with your best friend, I thought bunch of thoughts happened in your head, didn't they? About things you've done with your best friend and all that. Were they in order? Did it start from your first meeting? Or did it go to the really exciting bit, then the really embarrassing bit, and then that time you lied, right? And you split all over the place? I think, never mind linear, stream of consciousness. What bit do you want to see next? Tarantino's brilliant at it, of course, but there are many practitioners of it are brilliant. It's the most interesting. You can tell a story out of order so long as there's a logic to the order you're telling it in, right? And when you cut to the thing that is out of sequence, it should make sense to the audience because you've just made them want to see that bit. Non-linear is easy, provided you have a logic to it. It's not just that you jumbled the scenes up. That won't work. You're not telling a story in the wrong order. You're telling a story in the right order. Just like the story of you and your best mate is stored in the wrong order in your head, and you probably couldn't put it in the right order because of that night when you both got pets, right? Do you know what I mean? That is how stories are told. The human brain thinks that way, not chronologically.
While you're on that, just talk quickly about cutting from, people quite often cut somewhere.
Yes.
I thought it was a good point.
Yes. This point is made better by Alan Ayckbourn, so I'll use his quote at the end. It's one of the worst things you can do in a film or a TV show, and it never happens in theatre, is you cut to another scene. Now, you've got to have a logic to that cut, or people might wander out the room, okay? You've got to know why you cut that. Oh, I'm interested in seeing this. You've got to have some way that links one scene to the next, an idea that transfers from one scene to the next thing. It can be dead simple. The most obvious comedy example is you say something, I've never seen Dead with a bucket on my head, and you cut to him with a bucket on his head. It makes sense, right? I mean, and better versions than that, even, right? But you will see it in every good screenplay. It's set up so there's a stream of consciousness through it. When you cut to another scene, you cut with an underlying logic that is explicit to you. You get it, and you're pleased to see that scene. If you're cutting to a scene that nobody wants to watch, here's an idea. Don't. The other thing... You'll cut the edit anyway. Or if you don't, no one ever will leave the cinema or the television. And we do too much of it. And television and film does far too much. There's a great quote which really skewered me when I was reading a terrific book by Alan Ayckbourn called The Crafty Art of Playmaking. And he talks about the limitation. He says, he's very clear, it's not a limitation, is in theatre, you're maybe stuck in one location for such a long time. He says, what's the limitation about that? Choose the right location, choose the right people, choose the right event. It's not a limitation. And then he comes up with this zinger, which made me rethink my career, sobbing. was television generally cuts among parallel streams of action for no other reason than it can. You are not increasing the pace of something by intercutting. You're you're going over the points on the railway. Do we still do that? I don't know. But, you said, I have to watch this scene now. I was enjoying that one. Long scenes. There should be more of those, I think. Sherlock, oddly enough, people don't think of it this way, but Sherlock had ridiculously long scenes. Sometimes they didn't leave the flat for ages, but and then we get critiqued. It's all fast-paced intercutting, and I'd say it's not. They're sitting in chairs in a rubbish living room. Watch the show. But anyway, does any of that make sense to you? Yeah.
Thank you. So question here, and then up here. Good.
Hi, Stephen Service. One rules to Hamia and Southern Arms. With platform as a thing. And I see what you did this a lot, not to my opinion. Masters unknown thing name how to use but see the we got and then he's got the wonderful email as myth. So much is what in your opinion and from your opinion as well Stephen Dunn what is the greatest achievements in doing something brand new, unknown, maybe controversial, that you just think at the time that you were great powers, good time, sensing, first my master, first my doctor, wonderful stuff, not so, fake moment was that, and are there any things that you sell on your list that you'd like?
Specifically in terms of doctor here. We quite often see David in Georgia because they left me our David in Georgia tenant. And we go for dinner with them in Georgia, and Sue just keep going at me and David. Never again. It's been backed up. You're not going back again. It's embarrassing. Bloody kids show. Stop it. Honestly, that's what the dinner is like. Yeah, okay. Things I was proud of. I think things like the female mastering, so great fun, but easy.
I think Heaven sent them an ebook.
Yeah. That was a challenge. That was an interesting thing to pull that off. Just Capaldi monologuing, but frankly, Capaldi monologuing would sell out. That's fine.
Just I was on the you really needed anything else. Great talent.
But the most complicated things I did in Doctor Who were Matt Smith's first episode, the 11th hour, because absolutely nobody, including someone who shall remain anonymous but I'm married to, thought this was going to work. I would take over Doctor Who and we do without Russell and David and so on. Everyone thought it was going to fail. So the amount of pressure on that, you were quite. You admitted. I remember you casually admitted at dinner a couple of years later. Yeah, I think it was going to work. I told you. Anyway, so just selling that idea, we worked so hard. I went around the studio saying, "This is the most scrutinized hour of your television lives. Buck up." And it was such a tough thing to do. And Kate Hoff and Matt's a massive star, so that's including Karen Killen is a massive star. My God. And the other one, in terms of the technical challenge, was the Day of the Doctor was a nightmare. I haven't got a single happy minute. I liked it, but it was over. Because we didn't have a doctor under contract. And I had to start writing. I didn't know what doctors were going to be in it. We had Jenna Coleman. I think she's been in it about 8 episodes. That's not much of a celebration. And then I had to gather the doctors together and give them the first 2/3 of the script. And I got, what was it? Chris didn't want to do it, so I had to write in. And Dave is going, I just seem to be funny all the time. Am I just coming back to be the comic relief? And then Matt said, David's got all the jokes. And I said, well, do you want to swap? No. Right, but you're going to share the part, right? and we're going to get another one in. Well, we better be very, very good, they said, falsely. And I said, yes, John Hurt. They went, oh, gee. And I'm being slightly unfair because these guys are brilliant friends of mine now, really, really loves me. But it was getting John Hurt in to play those. That was pretty awesome. He was great.
Thank you. We've probably just got time for one question, so just going to go here. As you can,
Oh, sorry, could you speak up?
sorry. Thank you so much for being here today. It's on the show. I should have read everything. But obviously, I'm a huge fan of the original works, and I found what was in right show being fundamentally contemporary story very interesting, and that was one of the main I think solid with the show. Obviously, massively successful. Well, there is one episode that is primarily set in the final.
Yeah.
And obviously, it has some contemporary elements like Molly being inside the man and of course, elements. Then, obviously, the interesting narrative that it is goes into why he's tricking out his line. So that
Spoilers.
I was just wondering, given that the rest of the show is obviously a bit more nice, it was like in Steve here with that. So
Well, it came down to the fact that we had space to do a special. And obviously, being the fanboys Mark and I are, we just thought, oh, come on, just once. Just once can we do a proper one? The cape with the deerstalker and the cape and John had the moustache. We couldn't resist that. And I thought people would think it was fun. It also meant they got a shot at Martin and Benedict, who were, the Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson of their era, got a shot at doing it in the other era. I thought that was good, just like Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce did both. They did Victorian and they did modern day. So it was that, and it was just a hoot. We had
Trying to take the modern thing, like the text on the screen, into the old one with the newspapers and things. It took a while to work out.
What was
Generate that back.
Now that was Douglas McKinnon's idea, the little bits of paper floating about. Now, no, it was great fun, and seeing one of the challenges was, of course, that we had a number of female characters who were quite prominent in the show, and there literally aren't any in the Sherlock Holmes story. Mrs. Hudson, I think, has about one line of direct speech, and we've got a huge part for the wonderful and much missed in the Stubbs. So we had to sort of find ways, and I found a way to get Molly Hooper in, albeit dress her up as a man. A sublimely unconvincing man. Only Sherlock Holmes could be faulted. I just like about Dr. Watson, not for a second. But yeah, it was just brilliant fun, and I thought it's a special episode. We were allowed to have a little bit of fun,
And Mycroft being really for those.
Without that, because as you know, Mycroft is very, very fatally original stories, and we slimmed him down to be Mark.
We didn't have that much money on that, so we borrowed the that was the 24.
Was it?
You just done the fattest man in the world. You remember that fattest man in the world thing? We just borrowed that suit.
Did we? Does Timothy Spall know? Did we just sneak up at night? Oh, put it on and run. No, maybe put it on afterwards and run. Yes.
thank you so much for your brilliant questions. So Stephen, thank you. You've been clever. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Motsky. My name is Will Heafy. I'm graduate school of studies here, partly because I'm sort of, fan of your work. Really interested to hear about all the, the insights you've given us, but also because on behalf of the Faculty of Humanities, Arts and Social Science, I'm here to sort of offer a full vote of thanks. I hope, I know that you can tell from the warmth in the room how appreciative we all are, the university community, the wider city, everyone who's here, that you found time to come and do this Creative Dialogues event with us. We know how busy you are, we know how talented you are, we know how in demand you must be. So we're really, really grateful that you give the time to come and do this. It's been a really, really special evening. I think we've had insight, we've had warmth, we've had humour, we've had an uneasy choice between the. Yeah. And I think I just wanted to say to Stephen, thank you so much for coming. We really, really do appreciate it. Thank you on behalf of the university, and we really hope this is not the last time you'll be here, and that we continue these conversations, and I'm sure there will be plenty of appetite. You can see from the number of people here due to be here. So thank you so much. I think also there's going to be a bit of a raid on box sets, virtual and very real. People will be going back to their favourite episodes, their favourite series, maybe their favourite scene or line of dialogue. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be happening for a while across the city. So thank you once again. A dialogue needs, and a conversation needs more than one party. It needs at least two people. And we've got brilliant sort of interlocutors in Mark and Linda. Mark, Linda, thanks again so much for doing such a brilliant job of guiding the conversation, asking the right questions. And I really think it's been, you could tell the sort of like the passion, you could tell the warmth coming from the audience. And I think I love the ebb and flow of the conversation. So thank you to Linda and Mark for doing such a fantastic job there. The event here has been great, but there was a lot of preparation that went into this event. And I'd also just like to extend thanks to our brilliant professional services staff, the technical staff, all the people who put the organisation into the event, made sure everything flowed seamlessly, ensured that we had an event page that all log on to, and made the event run so well. So thank you to everyone there as well. Thanks to Professor Jane Rilling and Communications Drama and Film for their support for creative dialogues. And thank you to you, brilliant audience. Great to see the turnout. When we set this up, probably about 8 or 9 years ago, one of the ideas was that we really wanted this to be an inclusive event. We wanted it to be an event whereby we brought our students here, staff from the university, from all across the university, and also, the community, the wider community from the city and beyond. I think there's it's great to look out, see so many people here. I hope you've enjoyed the evening in that kind of spirit of, inclusivity, wanting the event to continue and the conversations to continue. I'd like to invite you all to sort of stay for a glass of something with us in the reception just outside of the forum here. So before we go there, though, just one last time, if we could show our appreciation for Vertue.